Wafer by Southey. Gage is a suspicion writer, because he has transcribed the part of his book verbatim literatim from an old translation of Gomara without acknowledgement. This is vexatious. There is much in the book which is very curious, and such an act of dishonesty throws a doubt of the whole. The history of his conversion is not improbable, and even if not true, it's certainly well imagined. Whilst this traffic was Portobel, he says, it happens unto me, at which I formerly testified in my Recantation Sermon at Paul's church, which if by that means it have not come to the knowledge of many, I desire again to record it in this my history, that to all England it may be published. Which was that one day saying the mass in the chief church, after the consecration of the bread, being with my eyes shut, at the prayer which the church of Rome called for Memento for the dead, there came from behind the altar a mouse, which running about came to the bread of wafer-god of the papists, and taking it in his mouth, ran away with it, not being perceived by any of the people who were at mass, but the altar was high, by reason of the steps going up to it, and the people far beneath. But as soon as I opened my eyes to go on with my mass, and perceived my gourd stolen away, I looked about the altar, and saw the mouse running away with it, which on a sudden did so stupify me that I knew not well what to do or say, and calling my wits together, and thought that if I should take no notice of the mischance and anybody else in the church, should I might justly be questioned by the Inquisition. But if I should call to the people to look for the sacrament, then I might be but chid and rebuked for my carelessness, which of the two I thought would be more easily borne than the rigor of the Inquisition. Whereupon, not knowing what the people had seen, I turned myself unto them, and called them unto the altar, and told them plainly that whilst there was my Memento prayers and meditations, a mouse had carried away the sacrament, and that I knew not what to do, unless it would help me to find it out again. The people called a priest who was at hand, presently brought in more of his coat, and as if it, their god, had been this eaten up, they presently prepared to find out the thief, as if they would eat up the mouse that had so assaulted and abused their god. They lighted candles and torches to find out the malefactor in a secret and hidden place of the wall, and after much searching and inquiry to the sacrilegious beast, they found at last in the hole of wall the sacrament half eaten up, which with great joy they took out, and, as if the ark had been brought again from the Philistines to the Israelites, so rejoiced for the new-found God, whom with many people now resorted to the church, with many lights and candles and torches, with joyful and solemn music they carried about the church in procession. Myself was present upon my knees, shaking and quivering for what might be done unto me, and expecting my doom and judgment. As the sacrament passed me, I observed the marks, signs on the teeth of the mouse, as they are to be seen in the piece of cheese gnawn and eaten by it. This struck me with such horror that I cared not at that present whether I had been torn in 1,000 pieces for denying publicly that mouse-eaten God. I called to my best memory all the philosophy concerning substance and accident, and resolved within myself that what I saw gnawn was not an accident, but some real substance eaten and devoured by that vermin, which certainly was fed and nourished by what it had eaten. And philosophy well teaches substantia sibi, non accidens convertient substantiam aliti. The substance, not the accidents of a food, is converted and turned into the substance of the thing fed by it and eliminated. Now here I knew that this mouse had fed upon some substance, or else how could the marks of the teeth so plainly appear? But no Baptist will be willing to answer that it fed upon the substance of Christ's body, ergo, by good consequence it follows that it fed upon the substance of bread, and so transubstantiation here my judgment was confused by a mouse, which mean and base creature God chose to convince me of my former errors, and made me now resolve upon what many years before I had doubted, that certainly the point of transubstantiation taught by the Church of Rome is most damnable and erroneous. The event of this accident was not any trouble that fell upon me for it, for indeed the Spaniards attributed it unto the carelessness of him who had cared of the altars in the church, and not for any contempt in me to the sacrament. The part of the wafer that was left after the mouse had filled her belly was laid up after the solemn procession about the church in a tabernacle for the purpose. Because such a high contempt had been offered by a contemptible vermin to the bread god, it was commanded through Portobel that day that all the people should humble themselves at morn, and fast with bread and water only.